And, like Ezekiel Elliott, he got his money. He's not worth it now.
No, it's
I
not.
mean, he's really not worth it because he doesn't have the burst he used to have.
Is he not the type of quarterback, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and I'll even throw Jeffrey Lurie, wants to lead their organization?
Birds 365 here with you on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Go ahead, hit that like button, share, and subscribe to Birds 365 because we get guys like Garry Cobb to come on with us, which is always our pleasure. He lends insight whenever he jumps aboard. Contributor for Fox 29. Get his football thoughts at gcobb.com. We're going to get him here today. How you be, G?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to this draft. And, of course, everybody's talking and a lot going on. So you got a lot of things going on in the NFL. Seems like maybe it's more active during the offseason with all of the wheeling and dealing. And, of course, it's a quarterback league.
Yeah, it is, G. It's always, I tell, my wife, we've been together for a long time, G, and she asked me, to do this and around the house and these. And I tell her every year, the off season is busier than the regular season. She doesn't believe me. She does not believe me, but I'm not lying when it comes to all the wheeling and dealing. So before we get the draft, G, I want to start with some of that wheeling and dealing. And I don't know if you heard before when you were in the green room, Jody and I were talking about player sentiment and they're picking when they're getting recruited at the professional level, so to speak. And they're going to pick a team and they have some options. It doesn't seem like the Eagles are on the top of that list these days. Why do you think that is?
As I said, it's a quarterback league. It's a quarterback-driven league. And I think that you have, different players who figure, hey, if I'm with a better quarterback, it's going to make life easy for me. And I heard you talking about Deebo Samuel. He is a special guy, and I do think that his coach and the way he's able to utilize him, I think it makes him, this almost like this new position where you got a wide receiver who they put in the backfield, and he's a running back too, so he's kind of like a combination of the two. And the way they utilize him, I mean, they do a great job with the way they utilize him. I don't know that he's going to be utilized like that somewhere else, because you got to have a very creative coach to be able to do that. And I don't think he appreciates, the way they utilize him. So, but, the star is always brighter somewhere else. He feels like he goes somewhere else and life's going to be easier on him. I don't know if he's right, but I don't blame him for going for the money, though. I mean, I don't blame that part of it. But sometimes guys don't realize and don't appreciate where they're at. And I just think they just do an amazing job of utilizing him in San Francisco. The way he is able to, the guy can just take over a game like few people can. And the way they utilize him there, they allow him to do that. And I think it's just astonishing the way that he is so versatile. He is a special player.
G-Cobb, we're a couple years removed from your playing days, but the thing that I have to wrap my head around on a day-in, day-out basis is how much the players actually do dictate terms these days. We get it. You become a free agent, you get to pick or choose wherever you want to go. You don't have to wait to be a free agent anymore. You can speak your mind. You get your message out via social media. You can leak information to media guys, and you can dictate where you're going to go. And that's what Deebo Samuel and others are trying to do. They didn't do that when G. Cobb was in the National Football League, did they?
It's changed. I mean, it's amazing how far it's changed in that you have players are able to do that. Now, a marquee quarterback might have been able to do some of that. With, of course, what John Elway did, when he was drafted and
good point,
different things like that. But you didn't see that anywhere else, and once you got into the league, they dictated to you rather than you dictating to them. and you just did not have a lot of players doing that. Now it just seems like there's so many players that if you're a Pro Bowler, if you're a star player, you can pretty much just tell, whatever you want, where you want to play at, how much you want to be utilized. It's amazing that the way it is, but it's a different league. I mean, the way the passing game, of course, is the most important part of the game, and you see that all of the players that affect the passing game are revered. They are very important because if you're a pass rusher, if you're a corner who covers the pass, if you're a wide receiver, if you're a quarterback, that's where, those guys make the big bucks. And of course, the people that protect the quarterbacks, everything is about the passing game, and the most important of that is the quarterback. And so that's why here I thought that what happened with Howie getting an extension, I think that was an important part of what the Eagles' strategy is. With him getting an extension, you notice immediately he moves draft picks back a year, kind of putting himself in position so that next year he can go after a quarterback. So it's interesting the way all these things work out, but everything is about the quarterback, and you just kind of have to look and see the strategy. It's and you got to be right. If you're a good drafter, that's probably the most important quality. Is you can go find talent, because if you can go find talent, you can always replenish. And we're going to see whether Kansas City is able to do that, because to trade a guy like Tyreek Hill. I mean, a guy who's hasn't, slowed up at all, and you trade him, that's amazing. But they feel confident they can find other talent.
Gee, one more question about the player empowerment thing before we get to the weeds of the draft with you. And that's guy who you played a long time, as Jody mentioned, different era, but now you've had your foot in with us, the direct in the media, the well-liked media. So you sort of got foots in both camp. Now, when you look at it just in general for the NFL, you think player empowerment is a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I think it's probably a bad thing now, because you got, the people in NFL, even more than any other sports league, are young. That's one of the reasons that in some of the negotiations that young players don't think anything about healthcare. We don't really have healthcare in this violent sport where you don't have long-term healthcare. And I know I felt that way when I was a young player. My first year in the league, after we play a game, you go like, what's the big deal? Why can't we play another game tomorrow? You feel like that. But of course, after you play a number of years, you don't recover till later in the week. And then late in your career, you don't really recover. So things change. And because we have young players, they don't think like, veteran guys. Baseball's different because they have older players. After somebody's been in the league a while in their season, they think differently. And because we have such young players, it really affects the mindset, and really affects the whole league. And that's why, things are set up the way they are right now.
All right,
and will always be.
JAKIB, what is the significance of the number 247 to you?
Oh boy, that's the number 247. The significance. 247.
247.
You got
with the in the 9th round with the 247th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select JAKIB, linebacker, USC.
I never really. I did.
That's like 1-9. Gary, everybody knows that. That's like
that one got me. I guess so. That's
the reason why I did that, not to make you look bad, was just to ask a question about what it was like waiting to hear your name picked. You know, you're hoping to
Well,
go to the National Football League. You don't know which team, when you're going to be drafted. It ended up being the 9th round for you, which seems like a long way, seeing as they only have 7 rounds in the draft now. They had 9 back in 1979. But you did get picked by the Cowboys, spent 10 years in the league. So it was a success. But what was it like for you on draft day?
Well, you know, of course, it was exciting. Wound up being where, you know, it kind of just had to wait and wait and wait. But it's exciting for everybody. It wasn't like it is now where they had all of the media there and you had the first day and the second day and everything. So it wasn't the same hype. You know, you really didn't have the communication that you have now. So, you know, you were excited, but it's not nearly like it is now where you got the whole nation watching. And, you know, the NFL has done such a great job of making it such an event that everybody's there watching. It wasn't like that there. I mean, I think I was in class when, you know, somebody had called the house, you know, but I had class and I might have been working out.
You didn't get a text on your phone in class at USC in 1979? They weren't blowing up your phone, JAKIB?
No,
I'm surprised they let you go to class, JAKIB.
There was no phone. Well, yeah, well, you know, I didn't have to go to class, but I did.
Way to go, G.
But the thing was, it just was not the same hype. You know, the football people were communicating about that. You know, over at the football office and everything, guys were talking about, you know, who went and all that. But around the campus, it wasn't like it is now. It wasn't the media thing. So football people were interested, but it wasn't. You didn't have like this event, like where you got this national show and everything. It's so much different now. And then, of course, you know, I mean, you're talking about something that was, I mean, look how many years ago it was, you know, 40 some years ago. So things have changed. It just wasn't the same, you know. It was a big deal for me, but it wasn't a national event and everything. And it was just the football people around the USC campus, wasn't even the whole campus that even knew about it. So it was nowhere near the same as it is now.
Understood.
Yeah, it has exploded. It's become a cottage industry. So let's start talking about the draft now, JAKIB. And, you know, you mentioned something about the passing game, which is true. You know, in this league, you either get the quarterback in the modern NFL or you get to the quarterback. So everybody wants quarterbacks. They want pass rushers. They want receivers. They want runners. As you mentioned, nobody. I tell Jody all this all the time. Nobody cares about the running game. It's April 20th. And by the way, happy certain day to a certain segment that enjoys 420 for people who get that. That wouldn't be me, but happy, you know, if you're one of those people, not you, JAKIB, I'm saying to the listeners, enjoy the day. Yeah, but overall, when you talk about, there might not be a running back that goes until the 3rd round of this draft. People have speculated. You know, as a linebacker, we're constantly talking about Jerry Robinson this time of year. 1979. That's the last time the Eagles have taken an off-ball linebacker in the 1st round of the draft. Yet December rolls around, and all of a sudden, everybody needs to stop the run. Why has it been devalued to the point it has been devalued?
Well, you know, everything in the, you know, you have trends. You know, that's what happens in the NFL. Coaches copy each other. You know, they're very insecure. It's a kind of position where, you know, you never really know until things happen. So you don't want to be caught, you know, caught napping, as they say. So I think a lot of teams, a lot of coaches, they want to make sure that, you know, they're either ahead of the wave or they're going the way everybody else is going. Now, you'll have some teams and some coaches who will say, you know what? I don't mind being the odd guy. So I don't mind being a run-based team. I mean, if you look at Shanahan, you know, we mentioned him. He's always, they believe in the run. His dad believed in the run. They still believe in the run, and they've had success. But most coaches are going to go the way the wave is going, and it's all about passing game, throw the ball more, how much you can throw the ball. So that's why, the whole thing with the running back too, the big thing is with the running back, they got the ball all the time. There's a chance of injury. They're getting hit all the time. If they get injured, then you got your top picks sitting over there. I don't think it makes sense to get running backs early because they get hurt. A lot of times you got a quality running back and he plays, let's say, first 5 years. Now he's worn out. He's really not the same player anymore. We've seen that. When we see that with so many running backs, that if you feed the ball to him a lot, he's not going to be around. But drafting backs, I see where I think a lot of coaches believe that we draft running backs late and we get a number of them. We can always swap them around, and they just don't value running backs like they did in the past, where you got a running back who is the feature of your offense. They really don't feature running backs in the offense where the running back's going to carry the ball over 20 times. Very few running backs carry the ball over 20 times. Think about it. Most of the time they got a shared role, and you've got two running backs, and they're sharing the ball, and they're young, because they get hurt, and an old running back is not worth very much because most of the time, they're banged up. They don't have the same burst they used to have, and so I understand where running backs are not valued as much. I would really like to see the NFL where you got a marquee running back where they're able to make their money earlier, because if they don't make it early, a lot of times they don't make it because they get banged up, and it's the kind of position where you really get beat up because the ball is a magnet. You got that ball here, everybody's coming, and like Ezekiel Elliott, he got his money. He's not worth it now.
No, it's not.
I mean, he's really not worth it because he doesn't have the burst he used to have. So, I'm surprised they utilize him as much because the other kids they have in that offense, they get through to the hole and through the hole. And I think at times Dallas doesn't realize they don't have the same running game because Ezekiel Elliott is not the same back he used to be because he doesn't have the burst he used to have. I can clearly see it. And I think a lot of running backs, a veteran running back, it just, they just can't get it done anymore.
There's something to be said for that old tread on the tires line that people use. The tread gets in, you're just not as fast as you used to be. I want to tap into, again, a guy who went through it, played in the league, played for several different coaches. I want to ask you about the current Eagles coach. Nick Sirianni comes in, rookie head coach last year, seemed to have won over the locker room. Eagles have a winning record, make the playoffs. Now he's going into his second draft. He was Eagles coach last year prior to the draft, but as a rookie guy, I don't think he had a lot of sway. He had a lot of swag in draft room last year. How much more do you think he does this year? The guys he's got to impress are Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie and the other executives with the Eagles, that when he says something in the draft room on draft day, are they going to listen or go, okay, let's get back to what we're going to do? How much of an impact do you think the head coach is going to have in this upcoming draft for the Birds this year?
Now, because they had a winning season, I think that he's going to have some impact. And I think he thinks along the way Howie thinks, which is what I was saying about the passing game, and the fact that the passing game is the most important part of the game right now in the NFL. So I do think he's going to be able to, have some say, but ultimately, Howie is making the call. I think that he's going to stay with his system. And as I said, I think they pretty much agree. I think that's one of the reasons he was brought in here is, he was a wide receiver coach, and he's into the passing game. I don't think that they're where they would like to be in the passing game. So that's why, they still got the question mark over over Jalen Hurts. They still got a question mark over him because they do not have the advancement of that passing game the way really Nick would like and the way Howie would like, because they both believe that the passing game is number one. And so I think that they are going to have, that Nick is going to have influence because he thinks like Howie does. So he'll be able to, let's say, talk about which wide receiver he likes the most. They know that's his expertise. It's a position he used to coach. So I think he'll have something to say about that. And at defensive back, he'll be able to say something about that because, when you coach the wide receivers, you're always looking at defensive backs too. So that kind of goes together. So I think that he'll be able to have some say about that. But ultimately, Howie and his gang are going to make the call. And I think they are going to, probably you're looking at, a cornerback, a defensive lineman, or a wide receiver. That's probably who they're going to get in this draft.
All right, G, let's talk about the quarterback because you bring up good points with the passing game, not only locally with Nick Sirianni and what he was brought in to do, but also the way the league thinks as a whole. So when Howie kicked the can down the road, as you mentioned, after the extension, kicks the 1 first-round pick into next year, it told most of us that, hey, he doesn't like the quarterbacks this year, so he's going to push it back and look at the quarterbacks next year, who at least early on look like a better class, and we'll see how that shakes out. A lot of things can happen. Ultimately, though, it does give you that sort of foreshadowing. They still don't believe in Jalen Hurts, no matter what they say in front of when a microphone shows up. The old adage is, don't listen to what they say, it's what they do. And the Eagles checked in on Russell Wilson. Oh, he doesn't want to play on the East Coast. Deshaun Watson, we know, gets the first 5-year fully guaranteed contract in NFL history. So, the Eagles are probably outbid, even if he would consider playing for him, and he wouldn't. Can Jalen Hurts do anything to win this job? Or is he not the type of quarterback Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and I'll even throw Jeffrey Lurie want to lead their organization?
Well, I think he could be, but he's got to make a major improvement. Look at the Tampa Bay game. He wasn't seeing the field. He couldn't see the field. They were taking advantage of the fact that, he can't see, looking and saying, if you ask him, what coverage are they in, Jalen? Can you see what coverage they're in? I don't think he knew and was able to decipher what coverage are they utilizing against me, and those are the things you've got to be able to do as a quarterback. You got to be able to see, and that way you know where you're going with the ball. Then you've got to be able to be accurate. It's more important to be accurate than to be able to have this howitzer, because you got to be able to throw that ball accurately. And you look at the marquee quarterbacks, they come up to the line of scrimmage, guys like, of course, the best, where, with Brady and Mr. MVP over there in Green Bay, they come up to the line of scrimmage, they look right away, they know what coverage you're in. They already know what coverage you're in, they know immediately. The time they get the ball, they already know where to go on the ball. And then they're very accurate. Those two areas are where he needs to improve greatly in order to be that quarterback. Now, if I were, just, to say, well, do I say he gets a thumbs up this year or not? I would probably say no. He's not going to shower them with such an improvement that they're going to say, well, they shouldn't get a marquee quarterback if there's one they can get in the draft next year. Because a lot of this is just, it's intuitive, it's something a lot of times either a guy has it or he doesn't. You might be able to develop it over time, but to see the field, to be able to recognize a coverage so quickly, it's like a gift, and some guys can do it, some can't. And then the whole accuracy thing is something that you work on, but the accuracy is the most important part of a passer because If you're not accurate, you're going to throw interceptions. You're going to miss guys. They're going to be incompletions, so that's going to cost you on third down. Now you're giving up the ball just because you couldn't get that ball there accurately. So, right now, I clearly, like they can say that they love them all they want. Why did they move to next year? Because there are players that are available this year, but not that marquee quarterback. See, that's what's not in this draft. That quarterback that they say, boy, and the kid down in Alabama, kid plays like a pro now. He sees the field, very accurate. He's got those qualities. You can see it in him right away. So I haven't seen that in Jalen, that where he's able to recognize the coverage all the time, and he's able to make that throw, and then he's accurate. He make the accurate throw. So he'll be able to get better, but to see the huge jump over 1 year, chances are, he's not going to make that big of a jump.
Gee, you mentioned three positions where the Eagles could use some help, could use some upgrading: cornerback, wide receiver, defensive line. I want to go D-line on you because I know you understand D-line can absolutely help those linebackers. You stay clean, you make plays. The guys up front occupying blockers makes your life easier. So I know you zero in on that when you watch a game.
Yeah.
What has Fletcher Cox got left in the tank?
Not much. Not much. He really hasn't been, I thought it was just a matter of stamina. Maybe they're playing him too many snaps and everything, but he's just not giving them much. Even when they get to the point where they're single blocking him, he's not doing what he used to do, which is if you single blocked him, he was going to take over the game, So really, I was surprised they gave him the money they gave him, because what is he, like $14 million he's making,
Right.
Even though they clearly are saying, hey, you're not the player you were, for them to give him that, I was surprised, because I figured they're going to this draft and they're looking at, those two kids from in Georgia, either one of them, what's it, Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt. Davis is going to be gone. I mean, the kid Wyatt is a player too. So I would be, I would think that they would try to get him if he's on the board when they draft. And they still value, of course, they're going to make sure they, have one of the best defensive lines in the league. That's what they're trying to do. So if one of those guys is there, they're going to try to improve their defensive line. But Fletcher Cox is not the player he once was. And unfortunately, he's nowhere near it. So I don't see, like I said, I was surprised that they gave him the money they gave him.
All right, last one from me, Gary, and you can follow Gary on Twitter at Garry Cobb. Read him online, gcobb.com. See him on the television screen with Box 29. I want to end it with linebacker as well, Gary. So the Eagles brought in a Kaiser White, and I want to know, as old school linebacker, do you even recognize these king-size safeties they bring in, these hybrids every looking for? And do you feel a soft spot when you see a kid like TJ Edwards, sort of that 240-pound old school linebacker who can go seek and destroy?
Of course, I love to see good linebacker play. And it's really, it's the sign of the times where, you don't see, the Eagles, of course, it's been since 1979, since they drafted a linebacker in the first round. And you're probably going to go another year, even though, there is a chance they could get the Devin Lloyd, who is a special player. And I think that there is a time when you should draft a linebacker in the first round, because if you got a guy who has got that elite speed, that means he's got to be like 4.5, maybe 4.4. He's got to be able to run with the tight ends, the running backs, even wide receivers sometimes. Where if you have a marquee guy, he can make a difference there in the middle. But if the guy doesn't have that type of speed, then sometimes he becomes a liability. But I really would like to see, the Eagles, I wouldn't mind seeing them grab a linebacker early, because I think you need to have a playmaker there at that position. The guy's got to be making a lot of plays, and he's got to have that linebacker instinct where when you got good linebackers, they're always around the ball. They're always making tackles. And you just have to make sure that, they can cover pass-wise now because, the game has changed. Most of the time, you got 3 wide receivers on the field all the time. So it really is got to be a guy that can run. He's got to be able to run. And from what I hear, the kid that they brought in, he can run. And they do. Some of these guys are really safeties that went in the weight room a few days. That's all it is. But you have the game. The game has changed. It's not the same game that we played where like on first and second down, they were probably going to run the ball. And then third down, they're going to throw the ball. That's the way the game used to be. Now, they can throw the ball on first down. You're not surprised at all. They can throw the ball, 3 consecutive downs. They're going to have pass type of a set in there where you've got 3 wide receivers in there on first down. So it's a different game. And the linebackers have got to be able to run. If they can't run, they're a liability. You can't have them out there.
JAKIB, I again apologize for running 247 by you before and kind of stumping
no, that's no problem. That's no problem. I just, I never really thought about that much, to see. But so that's why you got me on that one. But
and again, my bad. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
So instead, let's finish up with a hypothetical.
Yeah,
Garry Cobb being drafted in 2022 instead. And the NFL reaches out and says, Garry, we'd like you to come up on stage, you get an invite. All expenses paid by the NFL to go out to Las Vegas. Now we're taking the 22-year-old Garry Cobb who was drafted and moving him to 2022.
Yeah.
What are you doing in Vegas the day before the draft? They're taking you out there. They're paying the tab. You got some downtime. What is the 22-year-old JAKIB doing in Vegas?
Well, I happen to know a lot of people in Vegas, but I probably would go out. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go get me a good meal. I'm going to go out and check out the casinos and things and see what's happening. Just to go out and see. I might go see one of the shows. They got some great artists that are always out there. It's a good time every time I go out. Go out there. So I'll probably go out and enjoy the nightlife a little bit and get ready to get drafted.
There you go. And he was drafted, a couple of years ago, 40. And put 10 solid years into the league. He's been a staple.
11. 11.
Oh, shit. I shortchanged you. My bad.
It's okay.
First, I hit you with 247, and I chopped a year right off your career. That's all my bad. G, we appreciate it whenever you come on. Thanks for coming on today, bud. Enjoy the draft stuff. We'll get you on after the draft goes down.
Sounds good.
That's Garry Cobb here with us on Birds 365. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We're your Mac and Mac guys. Come back. Got a couple more things I got to run by Johnny Mac leading up to the media availability today by Howie Roseman. What do we...